Why am I here? What should I get? What is this? Why is the cheese section so small? It's about 10 a.m. and I'm aimlessly pushing a cart in a store, having absolutely no idea what to do, where to go. I'm pushing this cart, puzzled, overwhelmed, and thinking of home. A few days earlier, I had arrived in Los Angeles, which was going to become my new home after 32 years spent in my home country, France. Oh, and 5 months before that, I had given birth to my first child. Suddenly, my life had become a lot less about the cheese section than figuring out how to become a mother where everything, and I mean every little thing, was foreign. A place where I had no friend, no family, and absolutely no grounding. I was following my son's dad, who wanted to live his American dream. I had been torn away from my home and my family. I remember how heartbroken I felt when I said goodbye to my parents at the airport. I remember a few days after arriving, asking my son's dad if we would ever move back to France, and him looking at me with a stern look. Of course we'll never move back. Despite the changing continent, quite possibly because of the effects of globalization and the ubiquity of American culture all over the world, I had somehow imagined that I would adapt and adjust relatively easily. However, I quickly understood that the new rule was going to be forget everything that you thought was true about interpersonal communication, friendships, social welfare, healthcare, history, education, work etiquette, politics, social justice, and about the English language itself. I recall this office scene. Hi, Marissa, how are you? Do we have rubbers in the supply room? She looks at me horrified. Excuse me? Rubbers? We don't have rubbers here. Oh, we don't? Maybe we should order some. The one on my pencil does not work too great anymore. I'm sorry, do you mean an eraser? I don't know, do I? Yeah, I think you do. I did, indeed. I realized later on, mortified, that rubber is British English and that it's used in a vastly different way here. I was a foreigner and everything about me said so. Nothing about America was familiar, and I needed to observe, build everything from the ground up, and it meant modifying many behaviors that are inherent to me to fit in. Fitting in becomes a challenge when you live with an immigration label that carries so much with it. Legal alien. You can be here, but you do not belong here. You are alien to America. Your time here is finite. It's hearing as you go through customs and show your visa that you don't live here, but you work here. And that you shouldn't get too comfortable. Do not settle down. It's on America to decide whether you are accepted here or not, based on unclear criteria, stressful processes, and infinite delays. Is my American story just about logistics? Thankfully, it's not. In 2018, I made one of the hardest decisions of my adult life. I left my son's dad, who is also French, and broke up the tiny family unit I had here. Another terrifying leap in the dark. A few years later, I met a wonderful Mexican-American man who opened up my mind to a deeper reflection on my American story, but primarily on my French story and heritage. He encouraged me to rethink the way I thought about my country, my culture, and to deconstruct what I thought to be true. I have been living since then with a deep feeling of dichotomy. Every day, I miss and see the beauty of French culture reflected in other people's eyes here, aside of all current politics. while being aware at the same time that I come from a nation that was once one of the biggest colonizing forces in the world. This regularly triggers a loud internal conversation, the one tied to the admittance that the way I was taught history at school was completely whitewashed, and the accountability that lies with it. My experience with American history is the same. The courses I took back in France never included any word on the Japanese American concentration camps, the way Mexican Americans were also segregated, the privatized prison system, the one-way judicial system fairer to certain groups of people, the constant disenfranchisement to prevent communities to vote, the oppression groups of people who came here to find a better life had to go through, the many promises America broke. It took coming here, learning about the history of Los Angeles, going beyond America's way of marketing itself to the world, to gain the understanding that the reality is completely different, that choosing to emigrate or even being born here from immigrant parents comes with a cost, that emigrating to another country leaves you experiencing a constant push and pull between your origins and your other reality, that you have to give up parts of your identity. My American story is made of emotional hurt, ruptures, learnings, unlearning, new beginning, and the realization that the world is so very vast and that history is infinitely complex. What I hold in my heart as a truth, however, is that we all want to feel like we belong and find our community. 10 years later, I'm still trying to find my community. I would have never imagined that what I experienced as a hurtful event in my life would lead me to significant growth, more honesty, and more accountability. But God damn it, work on your cheese sections.